Imagine a future where instead of people dying, they can transfer their minds into cyber-enhanced bodies. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, what if there was an AI system that is seeking to destroy all human life? That's right, today we are talking about Tamashii Chronicles of Extend, seeing if this game is right for you. It's currently on GameFound, so let's just get right to it. Tamashii takes place in a cyberpunk future post-apocalyptic world where an AI system has taken over. Players will try to achieve their own goals and objectives based on the scenario, moving around on a modular city map, discover new locations, fight against strong enemies, and search for important information and files needed to win the game. This is an adventure scenario campaign storytelling game where the decisions that you make will affect a different scenario that you'll play in the game. There are different modes that you can play throughout this game. There's a solo, competitive, and cooperative modes. This meaning that there are different scenarios that you can play depending on what mode you wish to play. For example, if you want to play solo, there will be a solo scenario for you to choose from. And if you want to play competitive, then you'll choose a competitive scenario. In the competitive mode, players are actually racing to complete their own individual objectives. First player to complete their objective will win the game. Players are going to be racing around the city tiles, unlocking different locations and gaining those bonuses for themselves. Rather than in cooperative mode, players are given a scenario where they are working together to complete one objective. There are 4 main phases to follow during a round. There is the quest phase where you will check to see if you completed any of the following quests based on that scenario. Next is the programming phase where players will simultaneously move data tokens on their player board, which is called the compiler, to try to complete different augmentations to use different abilities or increase their shield, firewall, or recharge levels. First off, let's talk about that shield level. This will help you to prevent against damage from enemies that spawn on the board that are attached to you. Firewall will help you fight against bugs that you can gain from different enemies. Bugs are annoying in this game because this will fill up your compiler and you'll be unable to use different abilities until you can get rid of those bugs. And finally, there is the recharge level, which will allow you to re-roll any dice if you do not like that outcome. Now, at the beginning of this round, you are filling up your compiler with different tokens from your bag. This is a bag builder mechanic that is in the game, and throughout the game you can gain different ones such as wilds, which are called viruses, and because viruses are good in this game, they can be used as any tokens. Your compiler can run different programs which will allow you to have different abilities when you use your augmentations. You can only hold up to 3 augmentation cards, but you can swap them out. It will just cost you an action during the action phase. When players are moving the data tokens on the compiler, this is done simultaneously so no time is wasted between turns. You can also use these data tokens to upgrade your bodies throughout the game. You want to switch to a body that will help you complete your objective and the scenario that you're working towards. Next comes the action phase, where players can choose up to 3 different actions. Move around the city tiles, unlock different areas, and use their abilities. Do more programming, and fight off enemies by engaging with them. You can also gain experience points that you can spend later in the game. Now, depending on how many actions you take, will determine how many dice you roll to increase your trace tracker. Trace tracker is very important because this is how enemies spawn, and this is how you gain damage in the game. Depending on how high that trace tracker is, will determine on how many enemies spawn after you, because you cannot move in this game without having someone watching you. Now, the last phase is the enemy phase, where they will spawn from the enemy deck based on your trace level. Now, when enemies spawn in this game, they attach themselves to you, and if you can't get rid of it, then when another enemy spawns, then it adds its stats to that previous enemy, making it a little bit harder to defeat that enemy. Then the enemies will perform a dice roll, and based on that dice roll, they will attack you or perform another ability. You can use your shield level to prevent against this attack, or you may lose health. If you die in this game, then what happens is you will reset on the start location. You'll gain 2 bugs, and remember, bugs are bad because they can fill up your compiler, and you have to discard all your remaining data tokens on your compiler and place them back in your bag. You also gain 1 more cube to add to your trace tracker, filling up the bottom slot, making it easier for enemies to spawn and attach themselves to you. Speaking about combat in this game, it's pretty straightforward. You are rolling dice and seeing if you deal damage. Pretty straightforward, nothing complex there. Now let's talk about the boss fighting, because there's bosses in this game that you have to defeat. And from what I saw, they're pretty straightforward. They have different actions they can do, and they come with a ton of health. They can do a decent amount of damage to players, but if players are able to upgrade their bodies and use their augmentations correctly, they can take down the boss without too much problems. But I assume the bosses will only get harder as you progress through the scenarios. As far as price goes in this game, I do think it is at a high price point, and based on those unlocks that we'll get in the future, it might be worth it. But I do think it's also high because they included the VAT taxes for all the European backers. As far as the miniature pack goes, I think the miniatures are very cool, so it's probably worth picking up if you enjoy miniatures. But if you're someone that just likes standees, then that core pledge is definitely all you need. If you think you're going to really enjoy this game, then I definitely think it's worth the price. So personally for me, what I like about the game is the fact that it has a really good cyberpunk theme. I like the fact that you can switch between different characters and each character has their very own unique ability, and depending on the objective that you need to complete will probably make the choice on what character you want to switch into. As I mentioned, the combat in this game is pretty straightforward. I would like to see something a little bit harder. Hopefully some more bosses get unlocked and revealed throughout the campaign so we can see more challenging gameplay. I also really like the co-op mode and how players are working together to complete the objectives with the storyline, and I do like the fact that they work together to defeat the boss. I also like the puzzle system when it comes to your compiler on where to use those data components to use different abilities. There's a lot of different things to focus on in this game, and if you like the cyberpunk thing and you like the price point where it's at, then this is definitely a game for you. If you found this video helpful, definitely check out this video right here to learn about another great game that's on Kickstarter, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.